Hey, everybody, this is Ramon Ray, founder of smarthustle.com, where we inspire and educate small business owners to start and grow successful businesses so they can live the lives they want, providing for their families and supporting their communities. If you're listening to the sound of my voice, hearing this podcast, seeing this video, and you like what you're hearing, give us a 5-star review. If you have to, we'll take 10. If you don't like what you're hearing, still give us a 5-star review. But we're glad you're here, and you can find all these things and more at smarthustle.com. I'm speaking to someone whose voice you've heard probably a few times in the Smart Hustle community. That's Ginger Siegel. She heads Mastercard Small Business Push, I think, but she'll correct me in the exact title in a minute. And it's always good to have her here. She keeps her fingers on the pulse of all things small business for Mastercard. Ginger, welcome. I hope you, your family, and your team at Mastercard are all doing well at this time. Welcome.
Thank you. And I'm so thrilled. I'm honored to be in the same screen as you, let alone in talking to you. So no, thank you. It's really great to see you, and things are going well, and feeling really positive about what's happening from a small business perspective. So thrilled to talk to you about it today.
Excellent. I'm glad you're here, Ginger. And as we sit off camera, or off before we record it, just two things I want to talk to you about. One, I know Mastercard has a big initiative. I think you reaffirmed. I know Mastercard has always had big initiatives like this and several things you do, but especially I believe it's to Black female founders. Let's touch on that, and then feel free to dive into the overall. Remind us of some of the bigger initiatives you're doing with some of the organizations you work with. Let's talk about that, and I'll remind you this, and then we'll move just to catch up of what you're seeing personally, Ginger, but especially Mastercard in general, the world of small business. There's challenges, but there's opportunities. But first, let's touch on, feel free to give us the name of the program, what it's all about, what Mastercard's doing with Black female founders in particular. Please talk about that.
No, thanks. And, look, we at Mastercard are very focused on all small businesses, but around 2018, we started seeing that particularly female and then Black female founders were really at a major disadvantage. For example, one of the stats that absolutely makes me crazy is that when you look at venture funding, female founders only get 2% of all the venture funding. And if you look at Black female-owned businesses, they get something like 0.001%. So we knew, because of the fact that female founders and particularly Black female entrepreneurs, they were growing, and we felt it was really important to surround them in the kind of love that they really deserved, particularly in the realm of funding and resources. A really quick stat related to this is when COVID hit, of the 30 million small businesses in the US, 9 to 10 million were not digitized. And I think you know this. And so we have really tried to roll out initiatives like our Fearless Strivers grant contest in order to be able to really say to these businesses, we're here to help you. And we're really excited about the Strivers contest because of what we feel it can do. But just a couple things. We have partnered with the Fearless Fund, Ari and Simone, who you may know, which is a venture capital fund that actually is built by women of color for women of color. And one of the reasons we partnered with her is that we really have a very cool joint mission to support these businesses. So one of the great things we're doing and kicking off is that we are going to be providing 20 $10,000 grants to Black-owned businesses to really help them build, protect, and sustain their business.
Ginger, I want to underline that. You didn't just say a $10,000 grant. I don't think you stuttered. Maybe I misunderstood you, but I think you I'm having fun. I think you said 20 $10,000 grants. Am I right, Ginger?
You're right. It's 20 $10,000 grants. And really, and thank you for that. And the reason we're doing this is we feel that it's important to not just talk about the problem, but we really wanted to join forces to actually put some funding and dollars out there. And what we're going to be doing in 2022 is we're combining these grants with a couple other things. One is mentorship. We feel very strongly that you must provide the knowledge and expertise. My feeling is if you just give money to someone, it's a waste, because if they don't know what to do about the money, with the money, then it's going to be a really big problem. And actually, while 76% of people believe that mentorship is critical for their career, we found out in this group that only 37% have one. So we're really excited to launch this mentor collective with some very cool names that I know you've heard of, like Dave Roberts, Morgan DeBon. We have phenomenal mentors like Marcus Samuelson, who are actually going to be leaning in and providing this mentorship to the winners of the grant. So not only giving them money, but then how do they really know what to do with it? The other thing we're doing is when COVID hit, we built a program called Digital Doors. And Digital Doors is a program to help small businesses get online. We have partnerships with BigCommerce and Facebook to help them get online. They can take a diagnostic test to see how their business is faring, and most particularly, how they're focused on cyber protection. 50% of all cyber attacks are happening on small business. And so it's a very important area. So the Digital Doors toolkit provides them all these resources. We've got partnerships with Intuit and Salesforce, and we bring all these tools and solutions together so that they have these actual tools and solutions at their disposal. And then one of the last things I mentioned, cyber, I cannot impress to you in the audience enough how important this is. You know, people think it's the big companies getting hit with data breaches, but it's really
we know
not.
They're targeting Mastercard. I mean, that's easy. We know right now there's 74 billion people trying to hack your servers. That's a given. But the small businesses, sometimes we think, no, not us. They're just trying to get ginger.
Well, you nailed it. No, but you nailed it. And that's the problem. And so what's happened is with these bad actors is they've used everyone thinking that by starting to focus more. And like I said, 50% of these attacks are happening. And here's the scary part. The average cost to a small business of a cyber attack is about $200,000. So it can, and it has, put small businesses out of business. So one of the other things we're providing is 1,000 licenses to Black female entrepreneurs through the Strivers program to give them access to what we call the Trust Center. And the Trust Center is all about cyber. We partner with Global Cyber Alliance. We have tools, resources. We have a curriculum. We have an assessment where they can actually see where their business is. So really what we're trying to do with this, Ramon, is we're trying to bring together all of these tools and resources along with the money. And I really want to double click on that because it can't just be about the money, because a lot of these businesses don't have CFOs, CMOs, they don't have the resources and access to the kinds of people and tools that a lot of bigger companies do. So we really built Strivers to surround them, not just with the knowledge, not just with our brand to help support them, but also with the real tools.
No, that is powerful, Ginger. And I think that sometimes I get a bit cynical being a technologist, being in small business for 20 years, but I forget. Someone told me to read, Mike McAllister's book, Profit First. Somebody told me about whatever leadership and Jim Collins. But when I first started out, I didn't know that. So it's a more rhetorical statement. So thankfully, Mastercard is out there because there's always a new business, probably as we've been talking, that's just started. She doesn't know what to do. Her family's like, don't do it. You don't know what you're doing. Her family, she has no support. So I think it's great that there's these organizations like this, empowered or supported by Mastercard to do this. So I'm not sure if that was a question, Ginger, to you, or if I was talking to myself, but you can figure out whatever.
Well, no, I mean, look, you could say anything you want to me and I'm going to listen. So, but you brought up something really important. Take a look at you. Look at the business you've built. You have access to a lot more people and resources, but even for you starting out, there was questions. And what we want to do is provide access. And by the way, something like this podcast where your listeners can think differently. It's not just about what does a company like Mastercard do? It's what a company like Mastercard cares about. And so we have really put our arms around female Black entrepreneurs in so many different ways. The other big thing that's really important is, we have also committed $500 million to really break down the racial and financial inequality with this particular segment. And what's really neat about this is we just did a survey, and coming out of COVID, over 60% of small businesses are feeling hopeful. They feel they're in the growth mode. And how do we lift them up and take that positive feeling, but also give them something to get them not just out of COVID, but back into thriving? And we think our mission in this area with the 500 million and a lot of the support that we have given and we continue to give is really going to be critically important because of what's happened.
No, for sure. No, but thank you for that, Ginger. And then I want to move the conversation, Ginger, and thank you for all that. And I hope we'll include in the show notes the resources people can get access to. And I know this is just part of the journey that Mastercard is not new for Mastercard. These are continue to evolve and do. Let's talk in general about small business in general. And you may have said it all you had to say already, but you personally, Ginger, or organ representing Mastercard, any tips, thoughts, insights for us? I mean, we're here as we record this. It's 2022. Springish is in the air, at least where I'm sitting in the vacation capital of the world, New Jersey. I'm not sure where you're at, but we're getting out of winter.
I'm in New York City. It's beautiful here.
But there's challenges. There's one, we're just getting out of COVID. We've had new elections. We have rumblings happening in Europe. So, supply chain, there's a whole whirlwind. I think it's not your words, my words, still a bit of uncertainty, but yet there's still hope, especially depending on where you're at. So talk to us what you're seeing. Any tips, any major challenges, any hope for us, or any caution? The floor is yours, Ginger. Just talk to us more about what you're seeing for small business. Like, as somebody said to me, Ginger, if you were on a mountain and there were a million small businesses in front of you and you were leaving, what would you tell them?
No, it's great. And I actually am really hopeful. And it's not just me because of what I see, but it's because what small businesses are telling us. So, at Mastercard, we don't believe if you build it, they will come. We do a lot of research because we want to get in the heads and the minds and the hearts of small business. And what we have found is that there's a lot of hope of coming out on the other side. And there's a lot of hope of being strong and coming out even stronger. Now, here's what I will tell you. Couple really important things to think about. Number one, supply chain is impacting small businesses. There's no question about it. Whether you're a baker, whether you're a printer, getting supplies, that's a really, really big issue. And with a lot of the uncertainty happening, that continues. But one of the number one things I would say that's critical is 76% of small businesses told us that coming out of the pandemic, they knew they had to get more digital. You heard what I said before about 9 to 10 million, about 30% didn't have an online presence. So of the 45% of small businesses that closed, almost 60% if you were a Black female business, a lot of those people closed because they didn't have access to their customers. They didn't have kind of a multi-channel approach. So the need for digitization. The other thing is efficiency. If I'm a small business, I don't have 50 million employees.
That's right.
So I need to make sure if I'm doing my accounting, if I'm doing anything within my business, whether it's ordering, whether it's inventory management, you have to use efficient ways to do that. And so the ability not only to digitize, but also to automate your business. Here's a really scary example. 76% of small businesses still use manual invoicing. So think about it. You're Josephine the plumber. You come to someone's house, you want to fix their sink. You fix the sink, you go back to your office. A week later, you send them a paper bill. And 2 weeks later, Josephine gets paid. Imagine if you had a digital invoice where you could actually send it to somebody right there and have them pay you before you leave if you're Josephine. Yeah. So we talk a lot about access to capital and we talk a lot about borrowing, but one thing I'm really passionate about is how do we help small businesses get their own money in quicker? So for small businesses out there, think about that. When we think about cash flow, it's how quickly can we get money in and how slowly can we get money out? So I think the digitization, the efficiency software, things like speeding up money coming in, speeding up your payments, accepting payments, accepting card. That's the other thing we found is that during COVID, people weren't going into places of business. And so if they wanted to buy online, they had to be able to pay somehow. So I think it's really the automation of small business and making sure that those businesses have the tools so that they can more quickly run their business because they're not going to have a lot of employees. They're not going to have a CFO. So those are just a couple things that we're seeing. And we are seeing really good vibes coming from small businesses, but we know that it's still a journey and it's still a struggle, especially depending on the industry that you're in, restaurants, people that have to really get back into the supply chain. All those things are still a consideration.
Yeah, no, Ginger, that is powerful. We could write a whole book on that. I love what you just said, and it's amazing. Even myself, I'm a very small business. We have a team of five, and we impact a lot more. We have a small team of five, but it's amazing. I'll get invoices from the vendors, right? Yeah, vendors. I pay vendors. Yeah, from the vendors I work with, a Word document. And I get it. God bless them. Glad they're doing it. But in my mind, it's a visceral reaction because that's going to go lower in the priority. If you get what I mean, I'm just echoing what you said, much clunkier. I want to pay them. I'm going to pay them, but I can't just click and pay. I got to, okay, it makes it clunkier. So please, as you're listening to this, that's one thing. And again, this is perfect for my audience because I deal with the smallest of small businesses. So please automate. And it's partners like Mastercard and other vendors who Mastercard works with. You don't have to do this alone, right, Ginger? There's companies that say, here's how to do it, like Mastercard and the partners you work with.
Absolutely. Like, for example, on our digital doors, we have an invoicing solution there. So I think that's really important. And I think it's something else that you brought up, which is kind of the smallest of the small, which, we define small businesses as companies that are as small as $1 in revenue and as big as, let's say, 20 million in revenue. And it is the smaller businesses that in the past have not had access to those kinds of things. And there are a lot of tools out there. There are so many companies that are springing up that understand that small businesses need these tools. They don't need huge CRM systems, but they need a customer relationship management system to manage their customers. They don't need a ton of employee benefits, but they need employee benefits. And we have a partnership with a company called Stride that deals with portable benefits. So we tend to pick our partners and the people we work with specifically based on the needs and the pain points of small business. And, invoicing is really a huge one that you mentioned. And it's really about helping to manage cash flow. And you're right, a lot of people don't think about that. And they think if I send the bill, I'm going to get paid, but it goes further and further down the priority list for the person receiving it. So yeah, I think you very eloquently expressed it. And it is a big issue. And I mean, that's one thing. Think about that. If I can get money in my account in 2 days versus 2 weeks, what does that mean for me? Does it mean I maybe don't have to borrow as much? Does it mean that I can pay my bills back faster? I think these are little things that small businesses don't necessarily have the guidance to do, but there's a lot of people surrounding them to help.
For sure. And I'll give one more example, Ginger. You and I definitely could talk about this for hours. We had our carpets cleaned in our home, just, a few stairs and things like this. I was so impressed, kind of echoing what you said, small business, a guy showed up in a van with all looked like Ghostbusters van. I was like, ooh, this is cool. I don't know if you've seen those or hired those guys.
They're great. Yeah.
Yeah, came with the van and with the hoses and everything. And two things. One, gave me his phone for payment. Whatever the system was is not relevant. The fact that it was boom right there. And then just yesterday or a few days ago, I received an envelope from him, which had a $20 off coupon. Ginger, you tell me when it's time for our carpet to be cleaned again, who am I hiring? That's the kind of automation, customer service for the tiniest of small businesses that take things to the next level. Am I right, Ginger?
You're not only right, but you're spot on. And what you just said is really important because however this carpet person did it, they remembered you as a customer, which is why, for example, we offer a CRM system discounts with a partner like Salesforce, because small businesses, they don't really know how to keep track of them. I'll give you a really good example. During COVID, I was talking to a restaurant owner. And she told me, she said, I don't know what to do. She said, I want to contact my customers because I want to let them know that they can do carry out with us. We don't have a list of them. We don't know who they are. So you don't think about that if you're a small business, but how are you managing your customers? How do you keep in contact with them? How do you update them? How do you send them coupons so that you create loyalty? You don't have to be a huge company to provide loyalty programs, but you are right, Ramon. You are going to go back to them to get your carpets clean the next time. So I think one of the other pieces is customer acquisition and retention. So what we find out is that this is a huge problem for small businesses. How do we bring new customers in? How do we do outreach? And so that's why we're very focused on helping them around social media, helping them set up a website. We have partnerships with companies like Zoho that has social media tools. So again, we're bringing in things that are very relevant to what small businesses need: digitization, efficiency, customer acquisition, keeping track of their money, and then safety and security. I have to double click on that.
Yes.
As more businesses go digital, and certainly you're very digital, you're a big user of digital and social media, because I follow you and I watch what you're doing. But the more you do, the more vulnerable you are. And so we believe it's important for people to understand that these bad actors are coming after small businesses. And so making sure that you have tools to really assess the vulnerability of your site.
Yeah.
Do you have a tool that's going to give you alerts when really weird things are happening in the dark web? So at Mastercard, those are the kinds of things that we're trying to bring to the table. And it's not talk. We actually have these tools, we have these partnerships, and we really try to bundle them and package them in a program like Digital Doors, in a program like the Trust Center, so we can bring all of that together, because we know small businesses don't have time. I mean, you've got 5 employees, right? There's a lot of businesses that have 1 or 2, some have more, but they just don't have the time and the resources. So how do we as a community, as an ecosystem, surround them, not just with talk, but with the tools and the resources?
I love it. Ginger, I'm going to follow up with one last question. This may be a very tough question for you to answer. Let's see, everybody, if Ginger Siegel of Mastercard can answer it. Are you ready, Ginger? Are you ready? It's going to be a tough question, Ginger. How do you like my sweater, especially the color, Ginger? How do you like my sweater?
So I have to tell you that as I'm looking at your sweater, I was looking at my badge, and you look at my logo.
Yeah.
I have to say I'm pretty impressed. The only thing that would be even better is, do you have a Mastercard logo on that?
Not on it, but I have it in my pocket.
Okay. which we prefer even better. We love that. We love that. No, I love your shirt. If that is absolutely the right answer.
Love it. Hey, everybody, this is Ginger Siegel, who heads small business with her and her team at Mastercard. This is Ramon Ray, founder and editor at smarthustle.com. If you're hearing the sound of my voice, we'd love a 5-star review. If you don't like the sound of my voice, still give us a 5-star review. All we do at Smart Hustle is inspire and educate small business owners to start and grow successful businesses so they can live the lives they want, providing for their families, supporting their communities. I'm Ramon Ray, and thank you for joining us at smarthustle.com. Now let me figure out how to end this recording from my phone in my sister's daughter's bedroom. Here we go.